Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Last week we looked at buying Porsche Taycans. What do you do in 2025 if you're after one of these cars? And if you're in that position, you have never had more power at your fingertips than you do right now. You are in a very strong position with a lot of choice and a lot of bargaining power out there, no doubt. But what if you're on the other side of the fence? What if you're one of those folk who right now is trying to sell your Porsche Taycan? What do you do? What is the right strategy? Because if you are in that position right now, you are not in a strong position at all. In fact, you're at a significant disadvantage to those who are on the buying side of the fence for these cars specifically. And this has really shocked me. When we made this video last week, there were 846 cars available for sale. A week later, just 1 week later, there's an additional 50 cars that have come to market for sale. So we're now at the massive figure of 896 cars for sale. And if this doesn't melt your head a little bit, I'm not sure what will, because we're not talking Ford Focuses here. We are talking a premium luxury Porsche. And bang, just like that, yeah, there's another 50 on the market for sale, 896. Will this get to 1,000 at one point soon? It is a distinct possibility, but what on earth do you do if you're trying to get one of these cars off your books right now? Well, primarily, I believe there's two types of Taycan owners out there right now. There are those who have their cars owned outright through a business or perhaps privately, and of course those who have their cars on some form of lease. And we'll get onto the leases in a bit. And this is the point. Do people who are buying premium luxury cars really want an EV version? There was this example recently I read in this article where an owner had gotten hold of one of those new electric G-Wagons, the G580, which is a very impressive bit of kit. They owned it for a while, put 1,200 miles on it, and they're looking to sell it. Potentially they were looking to flip it, but they took a 20k US dollars loss on that car. And this is the thing about premium luxury cars, especially when they're EVs right now. Take that G-Wagon, for example. Are people really interested in an electric version of that awesome G-Wagon, that G63, that makes all the noise, has all the theatre, and just does everything that you expect that car to do? I love those cars. And I think that G580, they probably owned it for a bit, thought, hey, this range is terrible potentially, and just wanted rid of it. And yeah, a 20k loss, but I don't think you'd have seen that if we were looking at a G63, for example, because values of those continue to stay very, very strong indeed. And there was a point when they were going for overs. Let's go back to Taycans here, the purpose of this video, and talk about people who own their cars outright or maybe through a business who are looking to dispose of those cars. I think these people could potentially be in the weakest position of all the Taycan sellers right now. And the reason for this is the longer that the cars are on the books, the further they depreciate, and there is a lot of pressure on Taycan prices at the moment. I wanted to call out this specific example, which is pretty significant, I think. And I haven't shown the car specifically because I don't want to highlight this individual car. I just want to use this as an example of the price pressure that you're seeing on some Taycan stock from private sellers right now. Now, this car went up for sale back in June 2023. That is 18 months ago now. A long time ago, and it went up for 115,000. Fast forward to today, and that same car is still for sale at a price of 73,500. That is a reduction of £41,000. Pretty significant depreciation, and the car in question I don't think is worth that either. I think it's probably going to be worth closer to about 60. So they're asking a little bit too much still, given the current environment here. Now, I'm sure they've probably been using it in that interim period as well, but this isn't the only example of a private seller experiencing significant pricing pressure. There are plenty of other examples, and you only need to look through to witness that. The other thing I want to split out here is the mix of private sellers to trade sellers. There is a massive swing depending on whether you're looking at private or trade sellers. Indeed, there are 52 private sellers and a massive 844 trade sellers. If you're a trade seller and you have a Taycan and you're trying to sell it, this video doesn't apply to you because I'm pretty sure you just want it off your books as soon as possible. It's definitely a high risk car to take on from a selling perspective. And indeed, I've heard stories of plenty of folk trying to give their car back to Porsche and Porsche saying, look, to be honest, we just don't want it. We won't take it. And those are, of course, people that have their cars owned outright. I do want to touch on the other group of people here. And that group of people is the PCPers. I am one of those, and I honestly am very glad that I am right now, because most of the folk who have a PCP that is recently expired or is about to expire is highly likely going to be giving the car back to Porsche or the finance company, the garage, the dealer that they brought it through on that PCP. And a PCP allows you to hand the car back at the end, because right now there is going to be a significant disparity, highly likely, between what that car is worth and what is outstanding on that PCP agreement. So yeah, most of these folk are just going to be handing those cars back. And I've seen people thinking about, you know what, I'm going to track this car down at auction that I've handed back and try and buy it back through auction, because I'm going to get an absolute bargain. And I know how well that car is being looked after because I had that car and I do really like that car. So it's kind of a bit of a bittersweet pill as well for those that are coming to the end of their PCP, because really the only choice they've got is to hand it back or potentially continue to extend the finance agreement on the preferred terms. Now, right now, APRs aren't great from a finance perspective, right? There are supposed to be, or there's people talking about there are going to be 3 interest rate cuts this year in the UK, which should hopefully have a knock-on effect on car financing and take that out of the equation. But don't forget, there's also this spectre on the horizon of the loan mis-selling, the discretionary commission arrangements that were not allowed. And I think a lot of car finance houses are going to be buffering for the potential paybacks on that by keeping APRs high for a significant length of time. Right, so that is the PCP side of the equation. And I think right now, if I was looking at a new PCP on the equivalent Taycan, the finance numbers just would not stack up at all. It would probably be twice as much, if not maybe 3 times as much as what I'm paying now, which is just absolutely nonsensical, whichever way you look at it. So what do you do? How do you sell your Taycan if you want to dispose of it? Well, this is where it does get a little bit hard, I guess, a bit difficult, because I would nearly always recommend selling your car privately, right? I've sold all my previous cars privately and got a good price for them. The cars I have sold have been in pretty high demand, quite sought after, obviously well maintained because I do enjoy my cars, and have held their values pretty well. There's no way I'd be buying my Taycan to sell that. And if you have a Taycan and you want to sell it, you could put it on privately, but you'd be putting it on at a price, unfortunately, which is going to have to be equivalent to, dare I say it, what We Buy Any Car or what Motorway are going to offer you. That is the reality with these cars. I recently sold a 17-year-old E-Class E320 CDI. Lovely car, really, really well looked after. Loads spent on it during my ownership time with that car. And the motorway price for that car was about £1,300. But I was able to sell it privately for just under 4 because the car was absolutely worth that. And those who are after that car know about that car, like that car and want that car. And indeed, there's probably 10 of those for sale in the whole of the UK, right? So not a lot of choice, unlike Taycans. So what do? You put your car into Auto Trader privately, maybe at a higher price than you'd get through We Buy Any Car or Motorway, and it's just going to sit there and not sell. There's too much choice out there in the Taycan land at the moment. Too many cars for sale. And that is the reality. If you want shot of your car quickly or at all, you're probably going to have to end up disposing of it through We Buy Any Car or through motorway potentially. Maybe get around some garages, but they're not going to be giving you much more, if any. That's certainly the feeling I'm getting after having a messaging exchange with a few folk out there. But it is a really, really challenging environment. And it pains me to say that that is probably the only realistic way that you're going to be getting shot of a Porsche Taycan at the moment. And you're going to be getting a very poor price indeed if that's the route you go down. But that's the reality of the situation right now. Dealers also struggling. You see the dealer stock continuing to tick down in price. And if you want to sell a Taycan, and the longer you sit on it, the cheaper it's going to get, unfortunately. So it is a car you probably just want to bite the bullet and get shot of quickly if you're one of those folk that needs to get rid of it and you own your car outright. The other strategy could be to put it up for sale, just continue to use it as is, and whatever happens, right? Maybe at a slightly higher price. But I don't think we're unfortunately ever going to get to a position where the Taycan values start to strengthen again. Gen 1 specifically. We might see that with Gen 2. They might hold their value a little bit better. It's early days yet though. It is early days and it's still a Taycan, right? That reputation almost precedes it. So definitely some points to consider there. So you have to make some tough decisions, some bold choices. If you're one of those folk who owns a Taycan that wants it off your hands right now. That's it for this one. Do stay safe. Stay well. See you on the next one, and bye for now.